Kerry, you may begin.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kerry Duncan, and my pronouns are they, them. I'm speaking to you tonight as a person with lived experience of poverty, but also the staff at the Niagara Free Store and Oprah Brock, which was another organization here in Niagara that signed on to the Solve the Crisis campaign, along with the Niagara region and various community groups. I'm speaking to you tonight because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of the results of implementing the Notwithstanding clause, and I'm afraid of Doug Ford's policies and his increased power to harm myself, my family members, and my neighbors. I have a job that was directly impacted by the Student Choice Initiative, which was an like turned over in court, but policy by Ford to cut student-led programming. I live in an apartment that is directly affected by the clawbacks on rent control. And on behalf of myself and my brother, we're afraid. My brother and I and my sister and her parents have lived experience of what has been named tonight as hidden poverty. So growing up, I grew up in a rental house in a small town that was very moldy and but it was our home. The landlords who owned the property, as well as the property beside ours and the property up the hill and various properties in our hometown, decided that our request to have the mold hole that was in our living room and various maintenance was could only happen if my parents, who both worked 60 hours a week, caved and paid them more rent. This was not an option for us as we grew up living on overdraft. The result of this is we were evicted. And because I'm from a pretty rural place, before I lived here in Niagara, this led us to a house that was deeply unsafe. The landlord actively harassed both my mom and sister and put them in harm's way and then stole my car. And this was the result of living in poverty. Today, my dad still lives in that town, and it has, for the last 2 years, been faced with a rent eviction threat in which he will be homeless if he doesn't get into housing. In Niagara, I work two jobs. My brother works at a local grocery store and is on ODSP, and we don't qualify with our monthly income on a rental application. This is the result of living decades in poverty. My grandparents lived in poverty, my parents lived in poverty, and I live in a bit of a different economic situation than my siblings, but my siblings live in poverty and we all live in housing precarity. This motivates action. We know as people with these lived experiences, we are responsible to be vocal and to be active. I'm here to speak in favor of Councillor Bateman's motion because it shows how the Niagara region can be distinct from the Ontario government, who is looking to harm us and refusing to accept solutions like taxing landowners and saying we will stand and we will be vocal in fighting poverty in our community. Working with the Niagara Free Store, I work with a lot of folks and I encounter a lot of folks, both as volunteers, participants, donators, who are living in encampments or have family members living in encampments. And this past year, along with many members of our community, we lost one of our greatest volunteers and greatest activists, Crystal. Crystal tasked me with always fighting for the encampments and fighting for more free stores. Because what she would do is she would work at a free store all day and then take a bunch of stuff to an encampment to ensure that folks who could not reach us, we were reaching them. This is a tangible solution that we could be investing in our community. My brother, who has developmental disabilities but is very active in politics, follows it very closely and asked me to look up municipal election updates on the daily, constantly ask me why there are vacancies. How could we know things like the community fridge and the free store exist and still we have vacancies across all our different municipalities of like property and storefronts? There are solutions. And he is looking for answers. As people with lived experience of poverty, we want to work with you. We want to be active and we want to be listened to. And so I would encourage you to vote yes tonight to this motion. I would encourage you to shout it from the rooftops that we will not allow a provincial government who has actively cut funding for things like CTS, life-saving services, to dictate how we will treat our neighbors and our family members and our community members. We have to be vocal. We are responsible to be vocal. If you are housed, you need to know that you share in this responsibility to make sure all the folks who are surviving outside right now are supported by you. That you are here voting yes and making sure that everyone across this province will stand and be like, Ford, no, you cannot take away charter rights to make sure that our folks are safe. My brother has developmental disabilities. We know one-size-fits-all policies hurt us. They push us away. Please don't do that. Thank you.